Thanks for making us number one again during the Democrat debate. Very cool. Number one most shared social content, most engaged with. Fox News was a close second. The president's personal page was third. And then the alphabet networks, which is a riot. And that's all thanks to you guys for standing athwart the foes in leftist media in the alphabet networks and making Breitbart number one. Thank you. Appreciate it. And listen to our shows on demand. And as always, going to Breitbart.com. Okay. The big moment has arrived. I feel like this is 6 months in the making. The war for America's soul is out now, and Dr. Sebastian Gorka is with me for the entire hour. My good friend, Dr. G, I got to say, first off, congrats on the book.
Thank you.
I read it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to give you some of my observations, and I'll ask you to flesh out some of the details. But it felt personal. I mean, if you feel the love for the country, you feel the love for the president in it, and I feel like I know you very well relative to a lot of my guests on the show because we're friends, we work together, but I feel like I know you a lot better now.
I appreciate that. I always strive to make my books not only readable. I've had great editors at Regnery, and I always want my voice to come across. But I want, in this one especially, I wanted to communicate what it means to me as a legal immigrant to the United States.
Yes.
To have ended up in the White House as strategist to the president. And then also what I've experienced since then. And I think, the prologue is going to be the hit in the guts.
Yeah.
The story of what happened to my daughter and me at her graduation in May. And that you don't get much more personal than that.
You don't. And I like how the book it's a tight read, and the format, before we get into some of the specifics, was different, and I loved it. I thought it was very cool. So basically, here's the way the book is set up. The intro is done by Dennis Prager, which is very cool. Your first chapter, the prologue, is a personal anecdote. Then you really take about 3 or 4 big issues for you, and you just break them down. It's not 30, it's not 50, it's 3 or 4 big tentpole issues for you. And then you do something cool where you do some interviews, which is with Victor Davis Hanson, Conrad Black, and with the President of the United States. And then you publish Hillary's thesis on Saul Alinsky, which is an epic troll. You had to have some showmanship in there, which I read, which was great. I did make sure to.
That was the most painful part of the book.
It was tough. I did take a break to look at my phone during the middle of it, but it was still worthwhile. But I thought that was what inspired you to kind of format it that way, as opposed to just a traditional, I'm going to write a 400-word doorstop about politics.
Because we live in a different age today, Alex. That's why. When I go to Turning Point USA a lot, and I get asked advice about how do I get successful in national security or media. And one of the things I tell people, I don't care what field you want to go into, whether you want to be a neuroscientist or strategist to the president, read flipping books, because nobody reads books because of these darn things, because of phones. Even grown-ups don't read books. So I wanted to write a book that people will read. And who reads, maybe certain generations, nobody reads 600-page doorstops anymore. Okay,
that's right.
It just doesn't happen. I want people to be able to sit down in a weekend, in a day if necessary, and get the point I'm arguing. What's happened to this country? How did it happen, and how do we solve it? Those are the 3 questions I wanted to solve. Yeah,
and so let's get into some of the detail.
And before we do that, can I just reiterate? Congratulations on crushing it again. Number 1. You were
Thank you.
That modest little intro. You beat Fox. You beat the president. Come on, Alex.
I really should. I'm really not a
Bang
great.
That drum.
I need a Don King. I do. I need a hype man. I need a hype man here at Breitbart. I mean, we're doing such great stuff. I'm not the best hype man.
And I'm very grateful every week you loan us Matt Boyle on my show. So
yes, and you guys have a blast. I love to listen to when you and Boyle are on, and I have to say, Dr. G, you also reprint, which I know you put this up at your website, that Breitbart, your favorite of the
Number
conservative
1
websites. And it just reminds you, because you list about 13 or so, 13. And they're all so good. And it's just, we have a lot of, it's doing the Lord's work, what the right conservative media is doing. And it's thankless, and none of us are getting rich off of it. Maybe 1 or 2 people, but for the most part, no one's getting rich off of it.
It's a mission.
It is, and that matters. So okay, so let's start. Let's go chronologically.
Yeah.
You start with it's an intro by Dennis Prager, who also is an adherent of the "Don't Write Doorstops." Even though he's written a few, and I've read a few.
His exegetical ones on the Old Testament.
Yes.
Those are serious books.
Those are serious, but he's also a write stuff that people can get.
Prager you.
Of course.
Right.
It's keeping it in a format that is accessible is big. But it's just so interesting to reflect on Prager, because I was hanging out with Larry Elder when I was in LA, and Dennis Prager discovered him. Yes. And then I've been a huge Prager fan for decades, and which is amazing because I've only been around for 3 decades. So at least 2 of those I've been a Prager fan. And you're influenced by him and on the network with him on Salem. And you, how did you get him to do the intro for your book? I mean, that's so cool.
I had to ask Dennis because of my personal experience with Dennis, and it comes out in the prologue or the foreword he wrote for me. So he invited me onto his radio show when I was in the White House in the midst of the most egregious propaganda campaign against me.
Right.
So this is
the fake Gorka's a Nazi.
This is the Gorka's a Nazi, white supremacist, fascist.
Right.
And one of the places that had been most egregious, most reprehensible, had been a Jewish website called The Forward, these hardcore socialist, leftist, secular Jews. And Dennis Prager thought, hang on, what? Donald Trump's got a neo-Nazi working for him? I don't believe it. He did his own research. We'd never met, and he invited me on his show to discuss the tactics of the left, the smear campaign, because, I was a proxy for the president, I was a proxy for Steve Bannon, and he wanted to give me a chance to push back and to demonstrate what the tools and the tactics of the left are in terms of personal destruction, and I owe Dennis so much for doing that. Yeah,
that's amazing, and you get the detail of this story, which is, it's heartbreaking for people who know you and care about you, that like to be reminded of this. And there are a few parts of the book that I had to relive some pretty agonizing stuff, but it's still important because we have to remember how the left isn't just about beating us in the war of ideas. They want to destroy our lives.
Let me just reiterate for those who haven't got the book yet, and it's The War for America's Soul. At the forward alone, I mean, the Washington Post, New York Times all did hit pieces. The forward alone, one journalist wrote 42 hit pieces on me in my time in the White House. One of the articles from this absolute scumbag had my son as the target, age 18, high school age son, and used the word traitor in the headline about my child. This is the left today, Alex.
It is, and it makes me fear for my family, and it's a shame because they don't have to feel this way if they're because we're not going to come after their children.
We don't do that.
It's so different. It's so different the way they think of us. They really just don't even think of us as real human beings.
They have sold their soul to the devil on the strategy, a Linskyite strategy of the ends justify the means.
That's correct.
If you think you're really creating a utopia, well, then you can treat people as inhuman, and you can dehumanize your enemy, which is what they're doing to the president and anybody who supports him. Whether you're a Catholic schoolboy from Covington, age 15, wearing a red MAGA hat, or whether you're a gay Vietnamese conservative journalist in Portland getting beat up by Antifa.
Yeah, it's a great point. Dr. Sebastian Gorka is with me. He's with me the whole hour. The War for America's Soul, out now. And I read it old school style. Now, there's so many ways to read. Well, I love the Kindle and I love the audiobooks because I can get through more books. Right. But I did this old school, got my favorite chair, and I just read the book
Good
this
man.
time. So, yeah.
And by the way, for all of those who are pestering Alex, I have recorded the audio book for Audible. Yesterday I received 85 pickups that I have decided will be done this morning. I'm going from here to my studio to record the pickup, so the book should be ready on audio imminently. Thank you for your patience.
Awesome. Yeah, we did get a lot of requests for that on audio book. So, okay. So, and it's interesting also that you mentioned Prager being a voice for you defending yourself on his show, because even before I met Prager, and since we've become friends over the last couple of years, and by the way, we're going to do a special with him coming up for No Safe Spaces, his movie that's coming up soon. But we've become friends over the last couple of years. But you'll probably recall one of the biggest controversies ever at Breitbart was when David Horowitz put out a opinion piece about calling Bill Kristol a renegade Jew. Now, David Horowitz is not just an intellectual giant, but he is a Jew, and his criticism of Bill Kristol was not sufficiently pro-Israel, the one Jewish state on planet Earth. This, to this day, is used to brand Breitbart as anti-Semitic or neo-Nazi.
Right.
So, Dennis Prager, I'm sure, didn't know who I was and probably wasn't familiar with Steve Bannon at the time, still had David Horowitz on and defended Horowitz's ability to express himself in that way. And so it's an interesting connection, because the right does not necessarily take the left's cues for the narrative.
Right.
And you go through in a lot of narratives that I think that you set the record straight. And this is just a theme that we do on the Right and Talk Radio, and our thinkers are. This is what it's all about.
And not only that, let's add the final piece of the puzzle. You've got Horowitz is used as a straw man to attack Breitbart.
Yeah.
And then what do we find out a few months later this year? We find out that in an internal email at Google, Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager's Prager University are deemed to be Nazi.
Yeah, right.
One is a very serious Orthodox Jew, and the other one is Dennis Prager, one of the great Jewish scholars of our age, are deemed to be Nazis by Google. That's the time we live in.
And Candace Owen is a black white supremacist. So
exactly.
We got that going on. Right. Yeah, right. That's how they always say. I can't tell you how many times I'd be listening to Larry Elder and someone wouldn't realize he's black, and they would call him anti-black. Like, it's like,
right.
I mean, use the internet, figure it out.
Right.
Okay, so if you guys want to gamble, I can't guarantee we'll get in calls, but I would like to. So you can give us a buzz at 866-95-PATRIOT. The prologue is a story about your daughter.
Yes.
And your experience with her graduation at Trinity College, and some more personal stuff about an accident which is pretty tragic that she went through. I don't know how much you care to share about this, but it's a very meaningful part of the book. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this is a chapter I had to get permission from my daughter to include, because she just graduated from college earlier this year. And she was in the news, sadly, when she was in college, because there was an awful accident at Trinity. A college building, which had not been inspected, had 3 decks. And at the beginning of the school year, at a party, my daughter being on the top deck, all 3 decks came away from the building and pancaked on each other. 30 children were injured. My daughter's seriously injured. Nobody died.
It's shocking when you hear it described.
Oh, I mean, and it's affected her since then. I mean, think about it. She's surrounded by her friends, and then she sees them all fall 30 feet around her.
Oh, my gosh.
And she's on a pile on top of all of them. And she was an athlete. She was the co-captain of her crew team. So we said, come home, just relax, take a semester off. She didn't. She walked on crutches, got back into the team, into the rowing a semester later. So she's been through the ringer. She had 4 jobs at college. She was manager of the little cafe, worked in the student writing center, TA to 2 different professors. So this is a tough lady who wouldn't give up. And then we get to the graduation earlier this year. And I know Trinity is a pretty liberal college, despite being founded as a theological entity to support Judeo-Christian values. It's one of the wacky left-wing colleges today. So I didn't want to detract from my daughter's day in the sun. So I wanted to avoid being a spectacle. So I literally hid under an oak tree so nobody would see me, so nobody who hates conservatives would see me, so she could, pick up her diploma, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, and everything went well. Although halfway through, a bunch of the local police from the college came towards me, and I thought, oh no, what now? Somebody reported me for being, fascist or something, and of course they wanted some selfies.
You're right.
So that was great. And then it's over, and she's got the diploma, and we're going off to the tent to celebrate. And I get separated from my family, my wife, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and my daughter. And this little slip of a girl, 19 years old, must be, 80 pounds, dripping wet, comes right up to me amongst these families with witnesses on the quad and says, "Are you Sebastian Gorka? Are you the Sebastian Gorka that worked at the White House?" I smile, I stretch out my hand, and I say, "Yes, that's me." To which she responds, in front of witnesses, "Then F you, you effing Nazi."
I'm guessing she didn't use the letter of the alphabet.
Yeah, she didn't use the letter of the alphabet. Now, for those who don't know me, I'm 6'4" and 260 pounds.
Yes.
So to actually be so indoctrinated at her age, with her stature, to do that, I was kind of taken aback. Because I've had idiots do things in public with me, but usually it's from a speeding car and giving me the finger out of an open window. Just classic liberal tolerance. So after a few seconds, I thought, I'm not going to let this one lie. So I followed her back to her family group. Somebody was there who looked like her mother and her grandmother, and I said to her, "Who the hell do you think you are? My parents suffered under real fascists. My father was arrested and tortured by the secret police in a communist state. Who do you think you are to get to call me a Nazi?" the parents and the grandparents were horrified. They said to her, "Did you say this to this man?" And the scariest thing was, this girl said yes and had this rictus grin. It was like something out of the Joker. She was proud of what she had done at my daughter's graduation. At my daughter's graduation. So this is why I wrote the book. How did America get to that place is what I want to answer in The War for America's Soul.
Okay, so how did we get to that place?
Okay, so the next chapter is about the coup on the president, who did what. So,
and I've got some questions about that.
And I wanted to have that written out. And the third chapter is the how did we get to the coup and to that woman, that girl. And the answer is, it's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy theory. And when I get asked by conservative audiences around the nation, how did we get here? I tell them, you want the real answer? Because you're not going to like it. Look in the mirror. We let the left steal this country.
You're right.
And it is a process of 80 years of progressive radicalization and the destruction from the inside of the republic we love. And here, I doff my cap and I will give full recognition. This book, in part...
I know. Can I mention? Can I take some of the thunder?
Yeah.
This is Andrew Breitbart.
Totally.
This is Andrew Breitbart. This is an Andrew Breitbart production.
Yeah.
There is I was so touched by this.
The fuse is Andrew's.
I bet, I would love to count it up. I think Andrew might be mentioned in this book as much as the president. You mention him throughout the book. Yeah. In particular, when you're laying out some of the great philosophers of the modern age, you include Andrew right there with them. And he was so prescient in the way he saw the left's playbook that was decades in the making. And I think that's why you include the Hillary Clinton essay at the end, to prove that this is all designed.
We have the evidence.
It's all been a design to the point where you can't be a prominent supporter of traditional values in public life and not be in fear that you're going to have your daughter's graduation, should be one of the most joyous days of your life, interrupted by people who hate your guts.
Right. So the event at Trinity was in the book because it happened so recently. But the real fuse, the detonator for why I wrote this book, was reading what I consider to be the most important book I've read in the last 20 years, which is Andrew's Righteous Indignation, and especially Chapter 6. Andrew's book is his story, how he went from a mindless, unthinking lib at Tulane to being the proud warrior for freedom who stands up to bullies. But Chapter 6 is seminal. Chapter 6 is the best explication of the left's conspiracy and who spearheaded it to undermine our civilization, not just our country. So what I did is I took Andrew's chapter and I just filled in a few more details to go back all the way to an Italian Marxist in a prison 70 years ago called Gramsci, all the way through the Frankfurt School, all the way through Alinsky, all the way to Obama and to Hillary, and to paint the picture that, guys, there is no tinfoil hat here. This is documentable. These are the people, and they realized, and this is the danger of what the left has become today, they realized that Marx was wrong. You cannot defeat a robust religious democracy from the outside. You can't take down the greatest civilization in the world or that the world has ever seen. You've got to deconstruct it from the inside, whether it's identity politics, whether it's gender studies, whether it's all of the insanity that we see today, the victimology. They said, get inside the system and destroy it from the inside. That's Alinsky, and that's why Hillary Clinton worked for Alinsky. That's why the only photograph you can find of President Obama teaching as a constitutional law professor is him diagramming out on a blackboard the rules for radicals op plan from Saul Alinsky. This is all documentable, and the fact that the right doesn't know this is an indictment of our side.
Well, what do you think that Andrew understood about the left that others didn't, at least his contemporaries? I think some of us who were his disciples get it. But what did he get? Why did he see this when everyone else was missing it? Because it was in the works for so long.
Yeah. I think what he got, and you have to read the story of his experience in college and the effect of the Clarence Thomas hearings that I think for him were the catalyst.
Yeah. When
he realized, what did the left just do to this man? A black man with a record like he has? I think that the I don't know why it happened, but the magic of Andrew's experience is he connected what was going on in the colleges to the broader plan. He managed to, it's not,
great point.
because we separate politics from culture, and Andrew realized it's the same thing.
Yes.
His famous phrase that politics is downstream from culture, we use it all the time, and I wanted to explain that in the book. What does that sentence mean? We love to parrot Andrew, but do you know what it means?
Right.
Because it actually means something in real life, and what it means is the following. If you care about something, the Second Amendment, if you care about the First Amendment, if you care about pro-life, I don't care what it is. If you think you're going to solve that issue in the political arena, you may as well surrender now, because by the time it gets to this city, by the time it gets to the swamp creatures on Capitol Hill, it has been decided in the culture 20 years ago, and that's what Andrew realized.
The book is out, The War for America's Soul, and I read it fresh. So you go through a pretty concise summary of what you refer to as Obamagate, which is really just the deep state coup against the president, but you refer to it as Obamagate. I think Obama has dodged scrutiny, even from the right, probably to an extent that is not fair and not just. A couple of specifics I want to talk about.
Yes.
You really illuminate for me how big the NSA data operation is, and it is something that I'm concerned about. I'm a privacy advocate, a very public privacy advocate, and it is still shocking the way you lay it out. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Right. So during the Obama administration, they started the building of one of the NSA's data facilities in the middle of the desert. And we found out what the size of the capacity of that database is. So the NSA is America's electronic surveillance intelligence arm. And if they have the requisite access, they can detect and monitor everybody's phone calls, emails, any form of electronic transmission, radio burst, you name it. And this facility, this is the one main facility they have, but they have many. If you look at the measurement of information that they can store multiples of the amount of words the human race has ever spoken.
Wow.
So you think over thousands of years, you add up all the conversations that have ever been spoken in any language, the NSA's database can store multiples of that. That's how big Big Brother is.
And you talk about the FISA abuses, which we throw that out there as if everyone understands it. You make it very clear that when we're talking about the FISA courts, these are getting these warrants to get data and get information
on U.S. citizens.
On U.S. citizens, on some of these conversations they're having. And you walk through about how easy it goes, because you can do this sort of daisy chain where if you get a warrant into anyone, then you can basically get a warrant into anyone they've ever talked to, which means that, and when you have a guy like Donald Trump who has taken a selfie with literally every person on the planet, then it's very easy to totally infiltrate their private communications.
Right. So this was illuminated for me, and much of the coup chapter is thanks to, I rely upon the work of the great journalists out there. So John Solomon, Sarah Carter, the works by Greg Jarrett, and especially Dan Bongino. And Dan Bongino gave an incredible 20-minute lecture that you can find on YouTube at David Horowitz's Restoration Weekend on just the scale of the FISA abuse. And the Obama administration instigated something called the two-hop or the two-step rule, which means if you get a FISA warrant, a secret warrant to spy on a U.S. citizen for some spurious reason, you can basically intercept not only what they are saying, but you can jump to anything that any other person that they communicated with in two steps. So, for example, if you say, well, the janitor at the Twin Towers bumped into Osama bin Laden at a dry cleaners 12 years ago, then you'll get a FISA warrant to monitor his emails, his phone calls.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He works in Trump Tower. So if he takes a selfie with Don Jr. on Tuesday, well,
Don Jr.'s in, and then
Don
Trump's
Jr.,
in,
and then everybody's in. So you can reverse engineer.
This is our government. This is the United States of America. This isn't a communist country.
No, this is
We're doing this to our own citizens.
And I have to give credit because, you taught me way back when I was national security editor for Breitbart, what we do when you tell a story that's real, you have to focus on the villains and the heroes. You have to make it, digestible.
Do I do that?
Yeah.
I think I do that.
You got to do that. You got to do that because otherwise, humans absorb stories. There are very few heroes. There are lots of villains. in America right now, especially in the Obama administration. But there's a hero we must recognize every time, and it's Admiral Mike Rogers.
Yes.
Director of the National Security Agency, who, when he found out that his massive database that can absorb all the information that's ever been spoken was being tapped illegally by Obama administration contractors who weren't even authorized to go into that database, what did Mike Rogers do? He didn't even tell his boss Obama. He said, I want to meet right now with President-elect Donald Trump. And he traveled silently, without telling anybody, to Trump Tower in New York and said, Mr. President-elect, you are being illegally surveilled upon, and I thought you should know. What happens the next day? The whole operation of the Trump administration, the transition administration, moved from Trump Tower to Bedminster because the Obama administration was spying on the man that 63 million Americans had elected to be the 45th Commander-in-Chief.
Amazing. You call it Obamagate. Why Obamagate?
Because if you talk to the people who know, I had Greg Jarrett on my show for an hour yesterday, there is no way on God's earth that the CIA, John Brennan, that the FBI, James Comey, managed to initiate an interagency counterintelligence operation against a presidential campaign without the White House and Obama saying, yes, spy on him. Cannot have happened. So Obama knew that this intelligence apparatus, the most powerful in the world, was being weaponized against a candidate for the president.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka, again, he hosts a radio show called America First on the Salem Networks. I get it via podcast, so easy way to do it that way. The book, The War for America's Soul, out now. You also have a long chapter summarizing some of the highlights of Hillbilly Elegy,
yes,
which is J.D. Vance's bestseller, which is it was really an international sensation, and it's one of these ones that really should have warned the Democratic establishment that Trump was at least possible. Instead, they chose to ignore it. Give us a few of the highlights, and I don't know JD very well, though I've had a few conversations with him, and it's just one of the most incredible stories that you could ever read, and definitely top 10, maybe even top 5 books, I think, of this century, if people want to understand America, and it's all biographical. It's a biography, and it's a biography that illustrates the rise of the Trump voter in middle America. Talk to us about why that was so essential for you to capture it.
So I don't read autobiographies or biographies. I couldn't care less. 800 pages on what Eisenhower had for breakfast on February the 14th.
Churchill's love of butterflies.
It's seriously, life is too short. I've only read one in the recent decades, and it's J.D. Vance's. And that's thanks to, I have to give credit to Steve Bannon, who said this is crucial. Last Thanksgiving, I read the whole book on Thanksgiving weekend, the whole book, because it is so stunning. Because he's not a Trump supporter, first things first, but J.D. Vance's story of what happened to his family that moved from Appalachia to the Midwest is the answer, the sociological, the economic, the spiritual answer for why we elected a non-politician to be our president. The stories...
Dr. G, I would normally joke, don't tell the left about this, because it would give away our whole playbook. They all read it, and they didn't pick up any of the lessons.
They didn't get it.
The thing sold 1 million copies. Right. They read the book, and they learned nothing.
So what I did is I took this incredible story of this young man's life, how he pulled himself out of this opioid-addicted hellhole and became a Marine and a successful American. And I said, hang on, there are strategic political things that we have to extrapolate from this story, because it is a strategic story. It's not about, one man's success. It's about what does it mean when at age 15, his mother is carted away to a drug rehabilitation center. He's being looked after by his 17-year-old sister. He decides to get a job as a cashier at the local grocery store. What does he see? He sees the people on food stamps roll the trolleys of soft drinks to buy them with the food stamps, and then sell them around the corner for cash so they can buy their drugs, their alcohol. And you go, hang on, that is the function of a political decision in D.C. So Hillbilly Elegy is about how the left and the right betrayed America for 3 generations and why they wanted a non-politician to save America.
Yeah, and this was a book that you're sort of summarizing a book that I've read, and I still got something out of it because I love that anecdote that you pulled out of it. And I had a new thought that I didn't remember having when I read the book, which is that it made me realize how the establishment on both sides, particularly the Democrats, but the Republicans are guilty of this as well. They really turn their nose up at decent blue-collar work. They really think they're superior. And I was thinking about how many people, I'm sure you feel the same way on your show, that are listening to my show when they're in the car, they're driving their job. Maybe they don't love their job. Maybe they just simply are making a living for their family. And they're so engaged in American life. This is the backbone. These are the type of people where if they stop working, we feel it. It ripples throughout the country. If I stop yakking into a microphone, then someone nearly as good will come in. Not as good. Not as good.
Hang on, you don't have the accent.
Someone nearly as good will come in and yak into the microphone.
Right.
But when the people who are, this is the backbone of our country, the people who are doing the pick and shovel work of our country, and our elite act like they're lesser than. And this, to me, I felt contempt for the elite because of their contempt for the people reading this chapter.
When the Wall Street Journal wrote an editorial opinion piece from the Wall Street Journal editorial board about the president's policies to China and steel, and they said, well, he'll bring back maybe 60,000 jobs. But who needs 60,000 jobs in the steel sector? Yeah. And you go, what did you just write? The Wall Street Journal says, who needs steel jobs in America? Go to hell, Wall Street Journal. That's America. These are human beings. And the idea that, again, credit to Steve Bannon, the elite on both sides, and it's not just the rhinos, it's the total establishment said, the future of America is just managed decline.
Yeah, managed decline. That's right.
That we've lost, we've surrendered. It's going to be BRICS, it's going to be China, India, Brazil. They're the future. The EU is
I told you, I went to UC Berkeley, studied political science. Upper division takes, there's no debate. Globalism is here. It's coming. It's absorbing us all. The blob is absorbing us. We're all getting, we're all going to be part of the pink slime. And there's nothing, it's not even considered. Maybe we should slow this down or stop it entirely. Like, it's not even, you just assume we're all globalists now. It's one world nation.
And think of this. I mean, this is the craziness. We live in a time where for the blob, the elite, the media, it is controversial for the president of the United States to say, loving your country is a good thing. Alex, that's why I wrote The War for America's Soul.
It's so important, and we're only about halfway through the book so far. So if you if you don't sense how important I think the book is, then you're clearly not paying attention. Dr. Gorka is with me. The War for America's Soul is out now. We're just not going to cover everything today. I can already tell because it's just there's too much in it, and that's a good thing. That's why it's a book. So we're going to take a break. We come back. I'm going to do a few rapid fire topics that are important to me, try to bring in some calls. So let's get a few of these screened if we can. Thanks, guys. And we'll go from there. Thanks to Jenna and Shane working the show today from our New York studios. Our producers are Paul D'Amelio and Greg Evan. A very long, tiring, and worthwhile week. Thanks, guys. Ian Hanchett helps us pull clips. Matt Purdy, videographer today, helping us with our special interview with Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
And a great hat.
He does have a great hat. It's a Breitbart hat. Purdy walks the walk, man. And then
walk to the fire.
I can think of someone who had a quote, something like that, about walking towards the fire. It's what was that guy's name? Breitbart.
Andrew.
Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart.
I think there's a website.
Yeah, there is. I've been there a couple of times. Dr. G, we're talking about your book, and I want to get some callers in here, but so let's do a couple rapid fire. You had a genius move where you included some long form interviews with Conrad Black, Victor Davis Hanson, and the president. Victor Davis Hanson might be the most, he might have the most agile mind of any of the Trump of any of the Trumpsters out there. He is incredibly fascinating figure, a bona fide genius, a encyclopedic historian, and lives in a farm in the middle of California. It doesn't get much more interesting. Your interview with him is so illuminating. I have my own highlights, but why don't you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so first things first, as far as I'm concerned, VDH is the greatest conservative mind today. If you're talking about economics, it's Sewell, I get it. But in terms of understanding where we are politically, it is him. Because not only can he write, but those 7-minute interviews on Tucker's show, he just crushes the left and understands the reality of where we are. So VDH, I wanted him to put Donald Trump into context. I wanted to understand is the Trump phenomena sui generis? Does it end? Does the blob snap back in 5 years' time to where we were, or is this a permanent change? And then I'd love to hear what you enjoyed. And Conrad Black, for me, Conrad Black. Where are the rest of the Conrad Blacks? We used to have seas of people like these, true Renaissance men, incredible magnates of industry, of media, who wrote, biographies of, Nixon and are real historians. And not only that, Conrad Black knows Donald Trump because he was engaged in business negotiating with him. So who better to explain to us the significance of this man? Yeah,
and my notes are just, I love that Victor Davis Hanson heckled Paul Ryan for losing to Joe Biden the debate, which was hilarious. And I noted that he really encapsulated Trump's understanding of the working people. And this connects with the J.D. Vance Hillbilly
Elegy
segment.
The forgotten men and women. This is the key thing. For me, I don't know if it's in this book or my last one, I finally understood the Trump effect. When we flew to Youngstown, Ohio. We arrived on Air Force One on a base. We drove about 20 minutes. On the left-hand side, we saw Americans in MAGA hats waving flags. And on the other side of the road, what did we see for 20 minutes? Disused steel mills.
Yes.
Disused steel mills. And then we get to the stadium. The boss is in the back. I'm in the front, in the pit, selfies with all the people. And I realized 98% of the people in this stadium are former Democrats. Their parents were Democrats. Their grandparents were Democrats. They're salt of the earth, real America. Out comes the president. Out comes FLOTUS. He couldn't start his speech, Alex, because they were chanting, USA, USA, drain the swamp. That's Youngstown, and he's a billionaire from Manhattan. And you go, this is different. This is what the left doesn't get, and God bless them as long as they don't get it.
It's incredible.
And Liz Warren's not going to create that kind of connection.
And I'll tell you, it's a hopeful story, too, because I think about myself and my upbringing in West Los Angeles and going to prep school and going to UC Berkeley and living in the D.C. swamp. It's not exactly relatable to my core audience at Breitbart, but it doesn't mean that I can't have a connection with them. If Donald Trump with gold toilets and golf courses can have, then we all can.
When they look at him and they say, you know what? I may not be a billionaire, but if I was on Air Force One, I'd be eating Big Macs too like he does. That's the key.
But you write about how it could be that his time in these job sites and actually interacting with people who had these jobs that the left turns their nose up. Donald Trump loves these people.
Oh, my gosh. He's so... Again, when we would get off Air Force One, there's no media there. You're in a secure military facility. There's no exploiting the press. And he would get off the stairs. Before he get on the beast, he would shake the hand of every police outrider who was there to say, thank you for what you're doing.
Right.
What? Who does? Do you think Obama did that?
So, Dr. G, and again, some highlights here that I want to note. Hillary Clinton's college thesis on Alinsky is a must read. You heckle CNN for their business model being sustained by bundled cable. You throw some shade at H.R. McMaster. All of this is worthwhile. You're going to have to get the book for these. Last question from me, and then we'll. And
then the interview with the president. Don't forget.
Of course, interview with the president. All of that worthwhile. But one thing that you do is you answer questions that you get a lot. I get a lot of the same questions. Another cool formatting thing that you did with the book, which is, here are some things you're probably thinking. Let me give you some answers. Right. Let me cherry pick one. Yep. What do citizens do to MAGA? What do we do if we want to make America great again?
So we've got 381 days left. Every single person listening to your show, everybody who cares for this public, everybody who's worried about the direction we're going in, be part of the solution. And it doesn't mean just writing a check to a local candidate. And wherever you are, I don't care if you're in California or Massachusetts, you don't give up. Every single person counts. And one of the most important things is listen to Andrew Breitbart. Get on social media. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how technologically challenged you are. If you're not on Twitter, if you're not on Facebook, if you're not on Instagram, I'm sorry. You're part of the problem, not part of the solution. We have to stand up to the bullies, stand up to the liars, and that means use this. Remember what Andrew taught us.
He's holding up his phone, folks.
In your
not great radio, Dr. G.
I know.
When you say this.
It's okay. My phone.
Okay.
When in your pocket today, you have more power than a journalist had in his duffel bag 20 years ago.
It is true. It is true.
I remember that when I was hassled, I was harassed by some guerrilla journalists when I was in the White House. I was walking my dog Easter Saturday, and he jumped out of a car with a camera. Guess what I did? I'd just been listening to Andrew's book. I whipped out my phone, switched on the video camera, shoved it in his face, and that punk started running. They can't stand up to the bullies, everyone. Have the president's back, because I tell you what, the GOP doesn't.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka. The book is The War for America's Soul. Audiobook coming soon. Kindle and or ebook and hard copy out now. High recommendation. And also he's got a great radio show, America First, which is on the Salem stations. Dr. G, incredible. I could go on with you all day. And by the way, I know that you want to talk about some of the stuff that's actually in the news. I'll just recommend people check out your show if they want to hear your take on that.
Or go to sebgorka.com.
And we'll catch up next week. I do want to include some of our audience. Many have been waiting for a while. Let's go first to Shane in Oklahoma. Line 2, Shane, if you'd be so kind, as quick as humanly possible, but let her rip.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. So I had a quick story. A couple years ago, me and my 8-year-old son are walking out of a gas station on a relatively windy day in Oklahoma, and my son steps ahead of me and opens the door, holds it for me. I walk on and continue to the car. I'm parked, 20, 25 feet from the door, and there's a woman walking in front of the store as if to go in. She's my age, late 20s, early 30s. So Cameron continues to hold the door, and he's obviously struggling with it from the wind. This woman stops, looks at my son, and says, "You don't have to hold that door for me, little man. I don't care what your daddy says. I can do everything just as good as a man can. It doesn't matter that I'm a woman." And I can hear this, and I can't comprehend. Like, my brain locks. I cannot react because I just can't function. And Cameron, so my son's autistic, and he's very high functioning, but he doesn't quite get social cues. And it takes him a second to process because he's like, okay, Dad tells me to hold the door for people, but he also tells me to do what adults tell me to do, and she told me not to hold the door. So Cameron just lets go of the door. The wind catches it, and this door catches her right in the bridge of the nose. Instant karma. At this point, I don't know whether to be upset with him or proud of him. But Dr. G, your story about your daughter's graduation, that's why prompted my call. I hate that happened to you, but I just, it's crazy that they would do that to my, 8-year-old son.
Shane.
Great story.
We'll leave it there, Dr. G. Any thoughts? Or
I just love it. This is the insanity of the left. That woman can preach at an autistic child opening a door for her. I'd like to see her down the coal mines next, or doing the deep sea welding for the oil rigs, okay? The left, that's why I wrote this book.
Thanks, Dr. G. Chris, Louisiana, line 3. Chris, you're next.
Hello, How are you doing today?
Yeah, Chris, let it rip, brother.
Hey, big fan of both you and Dr. Gorka. I've got quick question. I work in the oil field, and finally things are starting to pick back up, work offshore. And one thing that I never hear mentioned is, and I was curious, along with the Saul Alinsky, is there any tie with Agenda 21, where Bush, in 1993 at the Brazil summit, where Bush Sr. Committed the United States, and then Clinton signed the executive order committing the United States to the United Nations Agenda 21. Seems like that goes hand in hand, but there's never any tie in there. And I was just curious as to
Thanks,
your
Chris.
view on that.
Dr. G?
Yeah, I don't think we have to treat, the Bushes as, hand in glove with the Clintons. These are two different kinds of animals. But there is a surrender on one hand to the globalism, and then there on the other hand, those who are driving the globalism. And let's not forget, we have the text of the speech that was leaked that Hillary gave to those bankers, where she said, "My dream is for a borderless hemisphere from South America all the way to Canada." What happens when you have a borderless hemisphere? You have no America. So that's all you need to know.
Dr. G, we'll take some more calls when you join me again next week for usual hit. But the last one for me, I ask every author who comes on. Name one surprise that you found when you were writing the book. Something that surprised yourself, a fact you unearthed, or something that is my tease for the audience. Something.
The surprise for me, and it was a pleasant one, is going back to the Oval Office to interview the president who I'd worked for. The guy, he's lost no steam. And we're 3 years in, all the constant hammering, the attacks on his family, he is just as much of a warrior as he was 4 years ago.
And you've noticed how he seems to actually be getting better and
the rallies.
Quicker on his feet. He's having more fun. And then Chuck Schumer is going out there, and George Conway, saying that he's actually, his mental health and his physical health, we really need to be concerned about it now.
Just keep talking, Conway.
It's unbelievable. It's the exact opposite's happened. Dr. G, I know we could do this, probably do a whole spin-off show here. I'm thinking.
I'm in.
And we get any ideas? All right, that'll do it for us.